All right, so let's get started this morning. For the second time. Okay. Okay, I'm a Libra, so I can be in two places at once. Some of you get that. Okay. So how many of you ever had one of those inspirational thoughts, one of those little voices inside you, and then you didn't listen to it, and afterwards you regret it? Ever happen to you? Right. Okay, so that's how we're going to start. Now, it comes to us, why don't we follow up with it? That's the thing, because how many of us know after the fact we regret that we didn't listen? 99 times out of 100, that voice comes, it tells us to do something, say something, act in some way, and we don't do it. And invariably later on we say, why didn't I? You know, the voice told me, the voice told me, the voice told me. So as we start every Sunday, consciousness is everything. So let's start to be a little more conscious of a couple of the reasons why we don't. One is, it could be as simple as, I already walked out of the house, I'm already in the car, it's 10 feet away to get to the door, unlock the door, and then go in and get whatever it was. So it's uncomfortable, right? Why should I do it? I'm already here comfortable, I already got to the office, I'm already in the midst of something. So one reason we don't is because it's uncomfortable. Usually then the other reason is, the other main reason, is because after we hear the voice of the Creator telling us to do something, then we hear that other voice, and the other voice says, you know, you could put it off, it's not going to be necessary, you don't really need it, you know, it doesn't look like it's going to happen. It gives us all the reasons why not to do it. And then, of course, afterwards we regret again why we didn't listen. So now that we have a weapon of awareness of at least those two, either it's uncomfortable, or we're putting it off, or I'm too busy with something else, etc. Now we have to ask the Kabbalistic question. If it wasn't meant for that moment, and it wasn't meant to help us with something, why did we get the thought in the first place? Because if you've regretted not doing it, then 99.9 times out of 100, where does the voice come from? Could it come from the negativity? Could it come from the ego? Could it come from the selfishness? No. It's got to come from the light of the Creator. That's why it's coming to us, and why after the fact we regret it. As simple as it's a nice sunny day, and you get that little voice in your head said, don't forget to take the umbrella. And then you have those reasons. You're already in the car, it's uncomfortable, you look at the beautiful day, you didn't hear the news report, so you're not going to need it. Why bother? And then, as it can do in Florida, 3 hours later, one little cloud, only on you, whoosh, nobody else. Even you heard the news report, everything was supposed to be sunny, but there's always that one cloud that gets you and your friends in one little area. Friday night we were walking home from here, from the center, and as we walk out, I guess it's okay, we crossed to the golf course because we live across a golf course. So as we're walking out, I see the sprinklers going, and then I'm feeling wet, and I say, okay, it must be the sprinklers. Of course, the wise one in the family, my 15-year-old daughter, looks, she says, no, because the sprinklers are over there, and this is coming like from above. And sure enough, nice and clear, we leave the building here, cross the parking lot to get to the fence to go across the golf course, beautiful weather. Right over the golf course, rain. The other side of the golf course, no rain. So we know how that can go. So we understand then these thoughts come from the light of the Creator, and the light of the Creator doesn't waste its energy. It doesn't waste effort. It's 100% efficient. So when it gives us those ideas, it's giving us the forewarning of what's going to come ahead. Sometimes it's as simple as call that person. You get a thought, oh, think of Mary Jane. You know, I should call her right now. And then what happens? I'm in the middle of something, I'm a little bothered, maybe later, and of course later you forget about it, and then the next day Mary Jane calls up and says blah, 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 and you say, oh, you know, now you sound like a little silly, you know, I meant to call you yesterday. But you didn't. but you didn't. So the Zohar teaches us that the Creator always gives us the solution before the problem. The solution is always there. The answer is always there before the problem. Because remember, the Creator, even though we have free will, the Creator's very nature is to give us all good all the time. So the constant flowing in of the energy and the thoughts and the ideas from the upper worlds, let's call it, to our world, is all the good things. And the Zohar simply says, the solution always comes before the problem. Because there's no such thing as a problem without an answer. The Creator is the answer. We've created the problems. So the answer is always there. I'll give you a simple example. Of course, it's Adam and Eve. So you read the Bible, and many people, we believe the Bible literally, we don't believe the Bible literally, it's just a fable. But in a simple story, what did God tell Adam and Eve? They had first the thought, don't eat from the tree of knowledge, or you will die. Pretty strong warning. And what did they do? They ate of the tree of knowledge, good and evil, and what happened? They brought death into the world. It's that simple. So they were forewarned, but they didn't listen. There's another one we haven't talked about, I don't think, in a Spiritual Sunday yet, but some of you may know the story. In the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah, Lot and his family are told to leave and don't turn around and look back. Lot's wife, for whatever reason, escaped the destruction and then turned around to look and became a pillar of salt, basically died, and that was it. So what the Kabbalists share with us, that all of what they call the 10 Commandments is a corruption. Just checking to see what the response is. Doesn't mean they don't exist or they're not real, but the idea of commandment is the corruption. It doesn't say God commanded us. Because the moment you say command, what happens to your free will? It's gone. Free will is gone. If you're commanded to do something, then there's no free will. The word in the ancient text is eser dibrot, 10 sayings, or let's call it 10 pieces of advice. So when it says, thou shalt not steal, it's not saying you can't. If you couldn't steal, what's been going on for 3,400 years since the 10 Commandments were given? Nobody stole, right? Because God commanded every human being, thou shalt not steal. So obviously there's free will. But when you understand the word dibrot as saying or advice, what it really means Kabbalistically, and this is why it's so essential we dig into the 5 books of Moses through the Kabbalistic understanding. Because one, obviously it's not saying it's forbidden and you can't do it, because people can. What it's telling us, it doesn't pay for you to steal. The same way we just said, it doesn't pay for us not to listen to that little voice, because later we regret it. So when it says, thou shalt not murder, thou shalt not steal, it doesn't mean you can't, God's ordering you, etc. It's the universal laws telling us whatever goes around comes around. So if a person steals $1 today, sometime down the line they're going to lose $1.20. Yes, it is that exact. $1.20 for every dollar stolen. Murder, thou shalt not murder. Same idea. Murder somebody, somewhere down the line it's coming back. That's what the whole Bible is about. All of these 10 utterances and all the other advices of the Bible is just telling us what's the cause and effect. How many of you ever been to a restaurant? Okay, you don't have to raise your hand because I don't want to embarrass anybody, but how many of us here and there, when we're looking at the menu, will check the price? Okay, it's okay if you did, right? But every now and then you check. Why? Why do you want to know the price? Because you want to know if it's worth it to you to order it. That's it. If you really like that item, then in a certain way, up to a point, you don't care what the price is because you want it, and the good of it, the taste of it, the enjoyment of it is worth more than the price. But at least you have the free will. You know what the price. So when the bill comes, you don't go, oh my God, what is this? So that's all the Bible's giving us Kabbalistically, is the ways and means of the technology of the universe. So we know, if you don't mind the price, do whatever you want. If a person doesn't care that if they steal $1 today, they're going to lose $1.20, let's say, in a year, no matter what happens. If they don't mind, steal. God gave us free will. We're giving everybody free will. But at least you understand when the $1.20 goes away, why it went away. Don't blame the person who took it. Don't blame the bad investment. Don't blame the government for taking it away. Look back and take responsibility and say, no, it was when they stole the dollar, they already set up the process for the $1.20 to go away. And it doesn't matter if then it's stolen by somebody else, or it's lost, or it's something you bought that just broke, you got no blessing. It doesn't matter which way. The seed and the cause was the stealing of the dollar. So then, prevention is better than cure, and that's why we're learning here. I want to take it to another level. How many of us have dreams and aspirations that we haven't attempted to make happen, make real? Right? Dreams and aspirations. It goes along the same way. Why is it that we don't? Why a person has strong dreams, oh, I want to do this, I want to do this, I want to do this. And the moment we say, I want to do it, then what's happened? Then come all the reasons why not to. And they're usually based, as I put on Facebook, fear, laziness, uncertainty, insecurity. I don't know, will I be able to support myself if I do it? Is it really going to make it? Am I going to be able to achieve those dreams? Are people going to make fun of my dreams? Are people not going to support it? And on and on and on. We give ourselves all the reasons why not. 99% of the time, we get those doubts and we get those fears because when we are awakened to these dreams, we tend to think of, wow, if I could be a singer, if I could be an actor, if I could be this successful business person, think how great I would feel. Think how good it would be for me. Think of how powerful everybody would look at me and they say, wow, look at that guy. It comes on a more self-centered consciousness. And the moment it is, then for sure, all of the reasons why not to do it are going to come in. But again, we go to the Zohar. The Zohar, the writings of Kabbalah. And it says very simply, where do our talents and abilities come from that give us those dreams? Comes from the Creator. Because we are just the recipient of everything the Creator's given us. So our talents and abilities, according to the Zohar, for one reason simply, to share with other people, to help other people's lives be better. And again, it doesn't mean like altruistic, it's only going to be good for them and not for us. Remember, what goes around comes around. So if we're sharing our talents and abilities for the sake of helping others, bringing good to the world, changing people's consciousness to create a greater peace and harmony and love your neighbor as yourself on earth, then the fears and the uncertainty disappear. They cannot stop you. They cannot. Because it's all about sharing, which is what the Creator's pure energy is. How to share and help other people. So the dreams and the aspirations and the talents and abilities that those are made up of, they do all come from the Creator. But as the Creator is pure sharing, so too, all of those dreams are meant for the betterment of everybody else. Doesn't mean you and I won't benefit from them. But the key is that our first thought is about sharing it with other people, doing it for the betterment of others. Years ago, when we were teaching in London, I know some of you heard of the Kabbalist called Madonna. So when she first came to the center in the 90s, of course, there was a lot of criticism. What's she doing there? And of course, you know, why and how come and whatever. The Kabbalah, especially in LA, all about celebrity and fame and fortune and this and this. But she's persevered. It's got to be 20-something years now that she's still doing Kabbalah. But the point is, she's been given talent and ability. Obviously, look at her success. But when we were in London, we went to her, what was it called? Revolution concert. And she had up in the background, on stage, so millions of people could see it, the 72 names of God. What you see here and what we meditate every Sunday on. To your left. She had that there. So that just as you and I do, when we look at the letters and we allow the energy that comes out of it to awaken our soul, she was singing and dancing and doing her concert and entertaining. But also what was happening to every person who saw that concert, they were being awakened, a spiritual awakening, because they were also just looking at, visualizing, scanning the 72 names of God. She goes on a television show and she says, you know what? I never gave any charity until I found Kabbalah. Then she started to give, and we had children's books that she had written and donated to the center. So we see that talents and abilities can be used, and ideally should be used, for the good of everybody else. Obviously, she benefits too, as we all will. But we've got to think, the dreams and the aspirations were given by the Creator to start applying. Now, how do we counteract the fear and the doubts and all of that? One simple word, the word for today, or the words. Take action. Get up and do something. Just start. It doesn't matter what it is. In fact, I wrote in my notes, and then I had to be careful. Take any action. Just do something to get started. I mean, think of it like a GPS. You're sitting in your driveway, you programmed where you want to go. How can that GPS guide you unless you start driving out the driveway? You stay in the garage, you've got it programmed, it can tell you how to go exactly from where you are to where you want to be, all the turns, how far, etc., etc. But if you don't start going, it can't tell you a thing, and you'll never arrive. So at least get started, because once you get started, then the guidance starts. So even if you're not sure which thing to do, get up and get started with something. Do something along the lines to start working into that dream. And the guidance will come. Because remember, without fail, 24/7, the Creator's energy is shining on us to help us achieve all the good and the blessings and the transformation for others that have been given to us. Because that's the nature. That's why it's given to us. And that's why it's better to use it to help other people than to be frustrated with it or to use it in a selfish way and then get caught in that selfishness. Because again, what goes around comes around. What goes around comes around. So we don't want to stop. We don't want to not start doing our dream. Because right now, our dream has a certain vision in our mind. But as we'll get started, we don't know where it's going to end up either. But get started. And as you start to shift that thought from self-centered to sharing, and you start taking actions to put it into use, to put it into the works, you could be guided into another frame of it. Right now we have one idea of what the end looks like. But as you get started, so many times it changes, doesn't it? How many of you have lived exactly the path you've thought of from the beginning of your life? Nothing changed, nothing made a turn here, deviating here or there, no? We're all living exactly what we thought as teenagers, 20s? No. Yeah? No. So it happens anyway, doesn't it? You get moving in life and you get turned anyway. So at least start with your dreams and aspirations. In the Bible it says very simply, when we were building the tabernacle in the desert and the temples of Jerusalem, all we had to do, the builders, they didn't build it. It says very simply, all they did was they touched the two pieces together and it was molded or framed or put together by the light of the Creator. But we had to initiate it. How many of you are farmers? Okay. I know it's Florida, but okay. How many of you are gardeners? Right? Plant plants. How many have ever seen a plant grow? Okay. In order to get the plant to grow, what do we as human beings do? Think simple. From the very beginning, you got to take the seed. The seed comes from God anyway. We don't make the seed. The seed comes from God. We put it in the earth that comes from God. We pour water on it that comes from God. And what happens miraculously? Without our help, It grows without our direction. The roots start to grow out of the seed. The stem or the trunk or whatever it is starts to grow. The branches, the leaves, the flowers, the fruits, etc. We don't do that. What do? We plant the seed and we water it. We take care of it. We put it out in the sun or in the shade or what have you. But you get the idea? Once you start to take the steps, then you'll be guided along the way. And don't worry what the end is. If it really coming from the Creator, then you know in the end of the story, how's it going to end up for us? Fantastic. It's going to be totally fulfilling and satisfying and peacemaking. Give us a sense of serenity. But that's what we've got to remember. I am not in that kind of absolute control. I can start the seed, I can start the action, and that's the key. Get started. I had a student who for probably 3 months was complaining about not having a job. She didn't know what she wanted to do. She didn't know what she wanted to do. She had this talent, this ability, went on and on and on and on. And I kept telling her, do something, do something, do something. So for 3-4 months, what did she do? Nothing. So for 3-4 months, every meeting was, I don't know, I don't have a job, the money's getting tight, on and on and on. I said, look, take your resume, just send it out there. Go out to a strip mall, go out to a shopping center, just start filling out applications. No matter what it is, it may not even be something you'd ever think of, but the act of applying, just putting your name out there, sending the resume, you get the flow going, you start to take the action, you plant the seed that the universe can make grow, and it'll grow, and then you'll be directed. And miraculously, guess what happened when she did? She got a job. She got a job. Direction was given, and she found the place to be. But all the time she's sitting saying she doesn't know, no action, nothing going to happen. Don't they say, the road to hell paved with good intention. Yes, one day I will. Yes, one day I'm going to. Yes, I really, it's so clear in my mind I'm going to do it. No, the road to hell paved with good intention. And I bet by now you know where that comes from. The Zohar. The Zohar says very simply, the road to hell paved with good intention. Why? As we've been saying, where do the ideas come from? The Creator. If the Creator is giving us the idea, is it good for us to apply it? Yes or no? Yes. So if a person not applying it, not taking the action, even though that's their intent, what are they going to end up with? Hell in the form of frustration, fear, anger, discouragement, hopelessness, etc. That's hell. Doesn't mean torture and torment after one leaves. It's torture and torment here. That's it. So we are sitting here, and I wanted to make sure I brought this up this morning. We are sitting in a place that started as a dream. 50 years ago, all that existed of the Kabbalah Center were 2 people, Rav Berg and Karen Berg. The Rav had his education, his Kabbalistic awakening and spiritual infusion, if you will, from his teacher, Rav Brandwein, who had his from his teacher, Rav Ashlag. You go all the way back to the source of the Zohar itself, Rav Shimon Bar Yochai, 2,000 years ago. You'll find a very clear lineage all the way. But up to that point, that's all it was, 2 people. Rav Ashlag was unable to get it out to the masses. Rav Brandwein was unable to get it out to the masses. But their dream was that Kabbalah and the Zohar would go out to every human being on earth. And in the last 50 years, the Rav and Karen, with their dream, and the 2 of them together, with commitment and dedication, have made it happen. They went from 2 people. We now have a couple hundred teachers, which is huge, and we have millions of students all over the world, like this room, of every race, every color, every nationality, every background, every country on earth, because they stood up and they took the action. But if you ask them, and I've heard the Rav say this many times, he was asked by very powerful businessmen who would come to the center, and they said, well, tell us, what was your business plan? What was your vision? How did you go about it? And the Rav would look at him and smile, seat of my pants. And he'd say, you know what? Few of them would say, and so was I. Meaning, whatever the guidance was, the actions were taken, and then the Rav and Karen trusted that the light would give them the inspiration, bring the right people, and it always came. If you look at, a quick example, if you look at some of the books, you probably can't find them anymore, but let's say from about 30 years ago, and you look at the covers, they didn't look like the kind of thing you would expect to find in a bookstore, because they were kind of hand-painted covers. It wasn't, because that's who we were. We were a very small operation back then. I have shared with you, I was the 14th teacher in the world, the first American other than the Rav and Karen. So we kind of did things, whoever had a talent to do something, that's what we did. So it was put together that way. But the Rav and Karen always taught us, if you just take the action, the light, the Creator, will bring the right people. And sure enough, about 1990-91, a gentleman came along who was an expert in marketing and all of that, and he took the books, and now you see what we've got. He made them more professional, so we could send it out to bookstores, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, and people have always come along the way. That's the absolute trust and certainty that all of us have if we will allow it to be used. The key is taking that first step. Get out there and do. But, as you've seen, the Rav and Karen have done it. We have now centers all over the world. We have people everywhere learning, and you and I have the blessing of being here now and learning this because they never gave up on their vision. They never gave up on their dream, and they're still to this day just taking actions until it covers the planet. Okay. Third point that I want to get into, shift it a little bit, because we've been talking about getting the idea and then doing the action. But I want to turn it around for a moment. What about the other way around? How many of us have ever said something that the moment the word goes out of your mouth, you already regret it? Right? You say that one thing, you're a little huffed, you're a little stressed, you're a little whatever, and right out of your mouth comes a word, and you're paying for it the rest of your life. It's important for us to understand Kabbalistically, every thought, word, and action is a vessel. It's a carrier of energy. So it depends, the result, the consequence depends on the energy we put in it. In Kabbalistic terms, it's called kavanot. Kavanot, can you say that? Kavanot. Kavanot comes from the word to direct. To direct. Most of us don't direct our words. We speak or we do unconsciously. Even if it's a nice thing, but we do it unconsciously. Why? Because we're good, nice people. We're used to doing it. We do the same old, nice, good things, and eventually it just becomes automatic, like a robot. We just do it. You drive to work the same way all the time. You eat the same breakfast all the time. You sit in the same seats all the time because it's just nice and comfortable, and why not? But now we're awakening to understand every word, thought, and action carries energy with it. What we want to awaken today is not let it be even good unconscious energy. We want to make it better, more light-filled, because what you fill it with will determine where it goes. How many of you ever said something, the same thing, over and over and over and over and over again to certain people, and you keep getting the same result over and over and over and over again? It doesn't change. And we wonder why. We could be saying all the right words, but we're not saying it with the right kavanah, the right intent. We're not injecting the right thought in it. If it's not coming with the love and light, then it doesn't reach into the heart and soul of the other person. And if it doesn't reach their heart and soul, you can make them, with your words and actions, do certain things if you're powerful enough, but it doesn't mean they're going to change. I mean, think of it. A boss, an ogre boss, right, lording their power and authority over an employee. Do you think the employee is going to do what the boss tells him to do? 99 times out of 100, probably. But if the employee is still feeling fear or resentment towards that boss, the words of the boss not coming with light and love doesn't go to the heart and the soul of the employee. So they will follow the action, but still hold the resentment. So then what will happen the next time? Same thing. It repeats again and again and again and again. And the boss is wondering, why not? I'm the boss and I'm telling them what to do, and they've done it before, because it doesn't reach their heart and soul. Whereas the opposite, when we fill our words consciously with love and light, it will reach right to the heart and soul of people. And two things happen. That's the beautiful part. It changes us because we're more conscious. We're extending more light and love that the Creator gave us. And it's reaching into the heart and soul of the other person and having an impact on them also. So they may not even resent the boss, let's say, in that same example, because it's coming with light and love, which means it's coming to help the employee be a better person, not just a better employee. And that means then they may be a better employee with less resentment and more desire to help because it's coming from the boss with love and light. But also when they go home, they've now had an awakening of more love and light. So when they go home, the criticism, the trouble, the difficulty that they found at home also starts to dissipate. Because now they're more conscious of the words or the energy in the words, thoughts, and actions that they use at home. And now more light and love in their words towards the people at home. It doesn't have the same impact as it's been, just the same thing, like the boss and the employee. Now suddenly it also, you see changes at home because the energy is different. And it's all about the kavanah. It's all about the energy. So especially, how do we use it in Kabbalistic terms? One is like this, but it's also, what about between us and the Creator? What about between us and the Creator? How many people pray to God, and it's also unconscious? Same old prayers, over and over, same thing. God, I need this. 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 Help me this. Oh, help my friend Johnny. Help this one. Help that one. But same old, same old. Works the same way. Because as you and I understand here in the center, God is not a human being that's listening to our prayers and say, well, this one I'll answer, and this one I won't, and this is a yes, and this is a no. The universe is a technological system. What goes around comes around. So what the Kabbalists teach us, which is why we do it every Sunday, one of the aspects of the 72 names, they're called holy names. The Kabbalists teach if we want to reach into the holiness of the upper world, we have to use the holy names and send our prayers. Remember kavanah? Like direction. You have to be able to direct it where you want it to go in the upper worlds and come down. But even if the prayers are meant selfishly, what's going to come down? Selfishness. If they're meant to connect to the light of the Creator and draw down strength and power and perseverance to act with greater love, kindness, and compassion towards all human beings, guess where it's going in the upper worlds? To that spot which will give us the energy and strength to be able to act with greater love, kindness, and compassion. Because all of us act with love, kindness, and compassion to some extent, but it's nowhere close to our potential. We have so much more ability that we're here to make use of. And that's why the Creator is pushing on us. Because the light of the Creator flows how often? 24/7. Forever and ever and ever, to push us to be more of what the Creator created us to be. And that's the whole concept. But we have to get up and take action. It's up to us. So one is understanding that when we hear those voices and we have those dreams, get up and start doing something. Start taking some action and allow the universe to guide you along to achieve it. Because if that kavanah, and I'll never forget the first time I heard the Rav say this, a person has the right consciousness and they just start to take an action, and even the action may look wrong, or the first thing that starts to happen looks like it's going the wrong way, because the intent was for greater love, kindness, and compassion. In the end of the story, it'll end up in the right place. Whereas the person who's coming from the self-centered thought, they may say the right words and do the right thing, and it may look like it's going the right way. But as they get closer and closer and closer to the end, to the destination, then it will go off the path. Why? Because that was their intent. If their intent is selfishness, then it's not going to bring the greatest lasting fulfillment. If the intent is to share what the Creator gave us, then as you go, even though it looks like it's going the wrong way, it'll end up the right thing. And just to give you a simple example, those of you who know a little football, because that's the first thing I thought of. Everyone knows American football? When the quarterback throwing a pass, and he sees the receiver running, and they've set a pattern already, does the quarterback throw the ball where the receiver is standing? No, because that would be stupid. Because the receiver is going to run and then turn. So if you throw it where he's standing, of course you're going to miss. But in the first moment when they throw it, it looks like it's right on target. And then the receiver turns and the ball missed. Whereas the other quarterback, he knows the pattern and he throws the ball where the receiver is not. So when you look in the first moment, you say, what an idiot quarterback. He's throwing it in the empty space, maybe in where the defender is. But then when the receiver turns, guess what? They meet up. And where did it start? In the intent. In the intent. And that's why we say consciousness is everything. The key is to constantly be more and more conscious, because we are the builders. You and I here, we are the builders of heaven on earth. We are the co-creators with the God that gave us the ability and set the pattern already. We're just filling in the space, like in those paint-by-number paintings. It's already set out. All we have to do is take the paint, the right one, put it in the right place, put it in the right place, put it in the right place. You and I are the builders. So today is the day to start taking action. Get up. It's our free will. We can decide what we want. So you start with a consciousness. I want more love. I want to see in the world more love, more light, more peace, and more harmony. Then we have to start with those actions. Because if we can't do it, the spiritually awakened people, if we're not doing it, how are the spiritually unawakened people going to make changes in the world? They're going to keep doing the same thing that they've been doing for thousands and thousands of years. So if we're all here saying, yes, I want to see peace on earth, and I want to see unity and love among all people on earth, then it's got to start with us. And today is the day. Get up, hold the right consciousness, and just start to take any loving, kind, sharing action. No matter how small you may consider it, but that small action will grow and grow and grow and grow until we will see, because it's coming very soon, peace and harmony on earth by us. God bless.